This is Fanocracy Stories, and today we're talking about Sara Beth.
From Sara Beth Yoga.
Yeah, she's an online YouTube yoga star. She teaches yoga through the internet.
And she's got 450,000 subscribers to her YouTube channel at Sara Beth Yoga. And she does a great job, obviously, at getting people involved.
And what's so interesting is that we talk about in the book how important it is to have the personal connections, not just online surface level connections, but she's doing such a good job of making those personal connections even if they're just online. Which is an interesting challenge because we do talk so often about the idea in the book and when we talk with people, what's fandom? Well, fandom is about human connections, right? As we always talk about. Right.
And it's finding people who love what you do and doing it together and developing emotional connections with people. But wait a minute, what does that mean for online?
Emotional connections can be, the people can be far apart, and that's the great thing about the internet, is it can bring people together in certain ways, as long as you do it in a conscious way.
And she obviously is, and she built the channel from the beginning, focusing on, she calls them her muses at the other end of the lens, and it's a fascinating way to approach it. So
this is Sara Beth and her yoga.
So I have a YouTube yoga channel, Sara Beth Yoga. I have, at this moment, 440,000 subscribers. It is a passion. It was a hobby, and then when I stopped treating it like a hobby and treated it like my business, it reacted. Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Sara Beth, and here you'll find free 5 to 30-minute yoga videos to help you stretch, strengthen, tone, relax, and peel back the layers to becoming your best self on and off the mat.
Tell me about that. Tell me about like the feeling of yoga and the passion you had for that, which got you kind of interested in the whole practice to begin with.
Yeah, so yoga helped me tremendously. I grew up with a lot of stress and anxiety. I didn't know how to manage it, and it was coming out in my body, and I found yoga, and it was incredibly humbling right away, and then I felt so good afterwards that I wanted to just keep going. And then I saw a poster that said, yoga teacher training, you should sign up. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I should do that. I should share how this has helped me with other people. And then my second thought was, what do you have to, like, why would you do this? What, just self-doubt just threw me down. And it took about a couple more years before I actually did it. My husband encouraged me to go try it. You won't know until you try. And at the same time, I realized there's a lot of content here, and I want to share this with more than just the people that can get into my studio locally. And I started creating videos. I even created a community donation-based yoga class so I could spread yoga and my yoga to people no matter what their accessibility was, as long as they were like local to the area. But then that really sparked up building a YouTube channel so I could take everything I was doing and offer it to the world.
And so tell me about the YouTube channel and developing fans for that, because you have almost 500,000 followers, subscribers on your YouTube channel, and you must have tons of views. How do you develop the fans of that? Is it related to the way you speak to people on the videos? Is it related to how you teach? What are some of the elements you think help you?
So I think that a lot of it's very similar to being a yoga teacher, where you hold the space. So the way that I carry myself is going to create the space around me. And so even though the internet is a different space area than like a yoga studio that I walk into and there's people there, if I walked into a yoga studio and I was manic or I was upset, that would change the vibe of the whole space, and all of the students in the room would act differently. But if I walked in there and I held my space, they're going to act the same way that I do. So everything that I do, from the way that I dress, from the way that I communicate with my audience, from the way that I teach my classes, to the way that I curate my content, all is branded. And then when people aren't in line, I can remove them.
Right.
It's similar to a yoga studio. If someone walks into my yoga studio and they are abrasive and disruptive, and I can remove them, and I can do it in a way that still holds space. So like on the internet, if someone writes a comment that is just plain awful, because it's the internet, I can remove that.
Right.
I don't have to respond.
Yeah.
I don't have to feed the trolls. you know. But if someone writes something that's actually constructive criticism, I can respond in a way that still is like, well, thank you for that feedback. You know, that was actually very helpful. And then everyone else hears that and sees that they can have that kind of relationship with me, that give and take.
And finally, what would be your advice to somebody in any kind of business for how they can develop fans in any way? Could be through video, but doesn't have to be.
I would say first, find who your ideal fan, your ideal audience is, and then speak to that person. So when I'm looking at a camera and I'm talking to a camera, I am talking to my Jen or my Kristen. I have my muses, and they're behind the camera. That's like my little mini studio, and I'm talking directly to them. And when I do that, the Jens and the Kristens of the world are listening, and they feel like I am talking directly to them. And that has taken me so far, because it really takes that layer off of me just talking to an inanimate object.